Some viewers may find this humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised. Hey, it's me, Romano, the superlative pig. As you guys might have guessed from our last show on Shark Tank, Vinnie and I have been asked to bring in some more cash for Mr. Vinnie. Since Vinnie Insurance has started to take off, and with all the dough that Miss Piggy is bringing in over at the Bada Boom, we figured now might be the perfect time to make some real coin off this little, business opportunity. Vinnie and I were part of this a few years back. Vinnie, did you find that footage we need for this? So this may take a little bit to get through, so bear with me while I give you a bit of a rundown on how Vinnie and I came across this little business deal. So several years back, Mr. Vinnie had some businesses to take care of up in Montreal, so Vinnie and I went up with him. Vinnie, show that clip of Mr. Vinnie in Montreal working on his business.
Thank you. So I see you want to see?
See you want to see.
As you can see, like Vinnie, Mr. Vinnie likes the skinny broads too. So while we're up there, we meet our little buddy Antoni. And yeah, Vinnie, I know. Jesus, it's Antoine or whatever. Yeah, I know. So while Mr. Vinnie's doing his business, Vinnie and I got talking to Antoni and yeah, Vinnie, I know. Jesus, would you let it go? You got a grip on that like a stripper on a pole. Don't worry, I know. So Antoine starts telling us about this maple syrup just sitting around in a warehouse. Apparently, that stuff's worth quite a bit of bread up there in Canada. So Vinnie and I, being the entrepreneurs that we are, we could figure we make quite a bit of cash with that liquid sugar gold. So of course, in order to export all that stuff, we need to get a crew together. Some trucks, a warehouse, the basics. And Tony said he knew a few people who could help us move the stuff, but that Vinnie and I should check the place out first. So we headed over there after hours to have a little look-see at exactly what we were dealing with. Vinnie, roll that clip. So Vinnie and I arrived with Antoni at the warehouse and decided to check it out. As you can see, there were thousands of these barrels just filled with liquid gold. We went over every inch of the place and tried to figure out just how we're going to get these barrels out of here. Of course, Antoni said he knew a few guys that we could employ to help move the stuff out of the warehouse. So then we had to get the plan together. Vinnie, roll that clip of the plan. I mean, when you're moving $30 million worth of maple syrup-filled barrels, that takes a lot of logistics. So once we had the plan, then we had to make sure we had some place to put the stuff. I mean, that's a lot of maple syrup to store. So we needed a warehouse that was cold enough to store it all. So Antoni said he knew some guy who was looking to get rid of a warehouse. So I sent Vinnie to acquire the joint with Antoni. I'll let Antoni explain it to you. Vinnie, roll that clip.
Mon ami Pierre cherche un entrepôt pour le l'assemblage de poutine.
Ouais, ben là-bas dans le coin, là, tu peux mettre les crottes. Les crottes de fromage.
Il est bien bon, là. Il y a beaucoup de fromage.
C'est bon pour 500 000 patates.
C'est excellent pour Vinnie, là. Il aime la patate.
So once we got this warehouse situation all set up, we needed to get some truck drivers to transport the stuff and some guys to load, unload the trucks and drive the forklifts. So Antoni, like he said before, knew some guy we could start with. So we headed over to interview this guy named Gene Guy. Jesus, Vinnie, Jungie, whatever.
So, Jean-Guy, we need a few guys like you to drive the truck for hauling maple syrup. You know some truck driver, right?
Yes, yes.
Good. How are you at handling the maple syrup?
I transport maple syrup and I am the best.
Is this going to be beaucoup d'argent?
Nope.
Good, good. Can you introduce us to the other driver there?
Yes, yes.
So after getting everything all set up with the warehouse, the truck drivers and all that, we finally had everything in place to do the job. Vinny, roll that clip of the job, will you? So as you can see, everything was moving quite smoothly. We had all these guys working to take the maple syrup barrels out and load them on the truck so we could get them off to the new warehouse. I mean, some of these guys had some experience, which really helped. Of course, in order to pull this off just right, we had to take all the maple syrup barrels out and replace them with barrels filled with water. I mean, everything looked like it was going to go just perfect. At least that's what we thought. Then we heard from Mr. Vinnie. So we thought everything was going just perfect, but some of these mamalukes we hired had to screw things up. And the worst part, it happened right in front of Mr. Vinnie, on the road no less. Vinnie, roll a clip of that screw up.
Come on, honey. Don't stay at a hotel. Just come over to my place. I'll cook you something.
So, of course, as you may have guessed, Mr. Vinnie wasn't too happy. So he decided to make an example of what happens when you screw up something this important. So once that happened, as you can imagine, there were no more screw-ups. Funny how things work out, huh? So that meant we could get everything and just put it into the new warehouse perfectly. Vinnie, roll that clip of the new setup. With everything all moved and stored securely, we had to wait before we could move the stuff. For some reason, the Canadian Redcoats seemed to have a real problem with us taking it all. Once we moved everything, the fuzz was all over the original warehouse like a wife on a divorce settlement. Vinnie, roll a clip of the Redcoats all over the place there. Of course, this is only the first half of our story, as I mentioned. Mr. Vinnie wanted us to bring in more cash flow, and we haven't even gotten to the part how we got to unload all this. So make sure you tune in next week, and I'll tell you exactly how Vinnie and I made over $30 million on maple syrup, and why the underworld prefers to refer to Vinnie as the Sugar Bear. So don't forget, if you like what we're doing, like, subscribe, and leave a comment, but nothing too incriminating. Because Vinnie may have to come over and paint the walls.